Good morning, everyone. Would you say that you're a good listener? Well, I've got a game that's going to test that. I went around the church and did some fun things. I'll play the sound of me doing those things, and I want you to see if you can guess what it is that I'm doing. Then I'll reveal the answer, and you can count and see how many you got right. Ready? Here we go. Well, did you get them all? Maybe most of them? It can be really hard to kind of tell what's going on when you can't see. Do you know what we call that when somebody can't see? It's called being blind. Your eyes don't work and you can't see anything. Well, in today's story, we are going to learn about Jesus healing a blind man. But what's amazing is not only is he going to heal a blind man, he's going to let people know we're kind of all blind without him, and we need Jesus to be able to see. So we've been asking ourselves the question, why did God create people? Well, God created people to know him, worship him, and bring him glory. And when people recognize what Jesus does in their life, and they live differently, and they tell other people all about it, that brings him glory, and that's why we were made, which is amazing. In our timeline, we've been talking about Jesus healing people. We started by Jesus healing 10 men, and if you remember, only one of them came back to worship him, and that was the one that was truly saved. Jesus healed a woman and a girl because of their faith. Jesus healed a man who was lame because he obeyed, and today we're going to learn about Jesus healing a man who was blind. So as we get into this story, you're going to see Jesus come across this blind man. I don't just want you to pay attention, though, to the fact that he's blind, but what's really important for us to notice is why people think he's blind. So if you have your Bible, please open it up to John chapter 9. We're going to read the beginning of this, and this is John chapter 9, verses 1 through 3. And it says, "As he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, 'Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?' Jesus answered, 'It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him.'" So did you notice it, the question that they asked? When somebody is blind, we do feel really, really bad. We feel sad for them because they can't see all the amazing things that are around us. Well, during this time, there was this thought and this belief that when something bad was happening in your life, whether it was something physical or a money thing or things like that, it's because you have sinned. Either you sinned or even because your parents sinned and you're kind of getting the punishment for it. So they look and they see this man who's blind and they say, "Jesus, why is he blind? Is it because he sinned and so God made him blind? Or is it because his parents sinned and God made him blind as a punishment?" And Jesus looks at them and he says, not everything that's bad in your life is because of something you've done or even because other people did, but bad things can be used for the glory of God. Remember, we talked about that's why God created people, was to bring him glory. And he says, this man is blind not because anybody did anything bad, but because God is going to be glorified in him. God can be glorified in bad things. When we suffer, when we struggle, when things are really hard, God can be glorified. We just need to look for it. So let's read what happens next. This is John chapter 9, verses 4 through 5. And it says, "We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Jesus is the light of the world. Without Jesus, things are dark. They're scary, they're hard, and it's just not the way that it's supposed to be. And Jesus came to say, I am the light of the world. I am bringing hope. I am bringing joy. I am bringing salvation. I am bringing healing. I am bringing everything that is good and wonderful, and you can have it all if you believe in me and love me and worship me. Isn't that the best news? So what happens next in this chapter is kind of funny. Jesus, he doesn't do things the normal way. We've seen in other stories that he would just say, "You are healed," and people would be healed. But this guy, he spits on the ground and makes some mud and rubs it on the guy's face. Weird, right? Why? I don't know. Maybe Jesus was trying to be funny. But what's amazing is he rubs the mud on his eyes and tells him to go and wash. So this blind guy, already, he's pretty good at walking without being able to see because he's always been blind. And he goes and he finds the pool that Jesus tells him to go to, and he washes off the mud, and he can see. And it's amazing. Guess what day it was that Jesus did this? I'll give you a hint. the same day that he healed the lame man last week. The Sabbath, the day of rest. Do you remember how the Pharisees and religious leaders reacted? They were more upset about him healing on the Sabbath than about the man being healed. And the exact same thing happens here. So they see that this man is healed and he's exciting and he's telling everybody, I can see you, I see your face, I see your freckles, I can tell what color hair you have, I can see! And they're like, no, we don't believe it. We don't believe it. There's no way that you were actually born blind. You must have been faking it. And he's thinking, what? They so don't believe him, they go find his parents. And they say, was your son really born blind? Yeah, he's our kid. He's been blind forever. When he was little, he ran into everything. Well, then who healed him? And they're like, we don't know. Why don't you ask him? And so he tells them, yeah, this man did. And they're like, you're worshiping this false person. We don't believe it. And he's like, can you not see the good thing that happened in me? Jesus, this is the blindness he was talking about. They were so set in their own ways and in what they thought was right that they refused to see the amazing things that Jesus was doing. That's what it means, what we call being spiritually blind. We don't recognize the need that we have to have Jesus open our eyes and see everything the right way, the Jesus way. So let's see how the story ends. This is John chapter 9, verses 35 through 39. And it says, Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And having found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe. And he worshipped him. Jesus said, for judgment I came into the world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. We are blind without Jesus. And if we think that we know everything, if we think that everything we do is right, if we think we know more than him, we're blind and we're gonna stay blind. We think we can see, but we're gonna stay blind. But Jesus came to open our eyes, to see how much he loves us and how much we need him. Our big idea this morning is Jesus came as a light in a dark world. There is so much hard things going on in our world, in our lives. But Jesus is the light and the answer. And we want to be like this blind man who was healed, and we want to worship him. If you were blind and then could suddenly see, what would be one of the first things that you would do? Would you want to go run around in the mountains so you could see all of the trees and nature? Would you want to go to the beach so you could see the ocean? Would you want to go and see all of your friends and your family so you could actually see their faces and what they look like? If you were blind and then could suddenly see, your life would look totally different. Well, it's the same thing about being spiritually blind and then being able to see because we know and love Jesus. So on your piece of paper or on your journal, I want you to write on the top the word blind, and then put a line, and then put the word see. We want to talk about the difference between what it is to be spiritually blind and then to be able to see as we know, love, worship, and glorify Jesus. So let's think of some examples. Well, when you are spiritually blind, we talked about this one a few weeks ago, you have pride. And that word pride again, it means that you think that you're always right, You want your own way all the time. You even argue with people because you're right and they're wrong because they don't agree with you. But when we can see through Jesus, we are humble. We recognize that we don't know everything, that we're not always right, that we need help from Jesus and from other people. So when we're spiritually blind, you have a lot of pride. When you can see through Jesus, you are humble. Here's another one. When you're spiritually blind, you can complain a lot. Again, something's not going your way, or somebody asks you to do something that you don't want to do, and you're like, nah, I don't want to. And when you can see, you are kind. Even if you're not happy about something, you don't complain about it. Even when you don't like something, you don't complain about it. Instead, you're kind. And you realize, complaining, that kind of hurts other people's feelings. It doesn't really shine the light well for Jesus. I would rather be over here on this side. When you're spiritually blind, you're selfish. You think about yourself a lot. You want things for yourself. You can be, a word that we use is greedy. You want to keep everything yourself. You don't really want to share. But when you can see, when Jesus has come and fill your heart, that's the word generous. It's a long word. Generous means that you are very willing to give. You want to give of the things that you have. You want to give of your time. You want to give of your attention, and you are just generous because you think to yourself, this is how Jesus wants me to live. Not like this, but like this. One more that I want to put down. When you are spiritually blind, and it's kind of similar to the one that's right here, you care about yourself the most. This is your number one thing. I care about me, me, me. But when Jesus comes and fills our heart, suddenly, we care about others more than we care about ourselves. Now, these are just a couple of examples of what it is to be spiritually blind and then be able to see once we know and love Jesus. Can you think of any more that you can put down? Things right here that when we don't know Jesus, we might think that these things are okay. And then when we come to know Jesus and he opens up our eyes to his goodness and love, suddenly our lives start to look like this. When we follow Jesus, he heals us on the inside. And when that happens, we change. We should look different than people who don't know Jesus, because he transforms us on the inside, and suddenly our lives are looking different. So what are some ways that you can think of that the life of a Christian would look different than somebody who's not a Christian? And then I also want you to ask yourself, which one does my life look more like? Am I still walking like somebody who's spiritually blind? Or would people look at me and be able to see that Jesus has opened my eyes and changed my life? Let's go ahead and pray. Jesus, thank you so much that you open up our eyes. That in this dark world, when things are scary, when things are hard, when things are confusing, we can look to you and we can trust you, and we can know that you are the light of the world. Thank you that even when bad things happen, you can use them for your glory and to point others and us to you. I pray that you would help us to walk and live like people who can see, because you have opened our eyes and healed us on the inside. Thank you for loving us. In your name, Jesus, Amen.